Okay, so let's talk about mermaids. We all think we know the story, right? But what if I told you that the whole beautiful, lovelorn maiden thing, that's actually pretty new? Today, we're diving deep into the real story, and we're talking grieving goddesses, terrifying bird monsters, and even lonely sailors. So, let's get into it.
Right. So when you hear the word mermaid, this is probably what pops into your head. You know, this gorgeous creature with a shimmering fishtail, a voice that's just out of this world, and she's always caught up in some kind of tragic love story. It's an image we know so well, thanks mostly to Hans Christian Andersen and, you guessed it, Disney.
Not even close. Seriously, that whole lovelorn maiden idea, that's a pretty recent invention. The original mermaid, well, she was something else entirely. Something way, way older and, honestly, a whole lot more powerful.
Okay, so to find the real origin story, we've got to leave the fairy tales behind. We need to go way back, like 3,000 years back. Our story starts in ancient Assyria, and trust me, it has nothing to do with romance. It's all about a goddess's grief and some serious divine power.
So let's meet Adargathes. She wasn't just anybody. She was this super powerful goddess of fertility, a total protector of her people. The story goes she fell in love with a mortal, a shepherd, but she accidentally caused his death. Absolutely racked with grief and shame, she just threw herself into a lake. Her plan? To turn into a fish and just vanished forever.
But here's the thing. The water couldn't just snuff out her divine power. She was too immense, too strong, so only her lower half changed. And boom, just like that, the very first mermaid was born. But get this, she wasn't some lovesick teenager. She was a grieving, powerful goddess whose very soul just refused to be erased.
All right, let's shift gears a bit and talk about another creature we tend to lump in with mermaids, the siren. You know the image, right? These stunning women, usually with fishtails, singing this irresistible song that just lures sailors to their doom. It's a classic, famous scene.
I mean, Homer's Odyssey paints this absolutely terrifying picture. Their song sounds like pure pleasure, but it only leads to death. The shores of their island are literally covered in the bones of their victims. It's like the ultimate story of deadly, deadly temptation.
But what if their song wasn't about beauty? And what if, get this, they didn't even have a fishtail? What if almost everything we think we know about the sirens is wrong? Because if you go back to the ancient Greeks, it pretty much is.
Okay, so here's the big twist. We picture them as mermaids, right? But if you look at actual ancient Greek art, on pottery, on tombs, the stuff they actually made, it tells a totally different story. The original sirens, they weren't part fish, not at all. They were part woman and part bird, with wings and big sharp talons. Totally different creature.
And that famous song of theirs? It wasn't just some catchy, seductive tune, oh no. The sirens tempted Odysseus and his crew with something way more powerful. Knowledge. Pure, forbidden knowledge. They literally promised to tell them everything that happened to Troy, everything that was happening in the world, everything that ever would happen. The temptation wasn't seduction, it was omniscience. It was a lure for the mind, which is so much more terrifying, right?
So, we've got goddesses and bird monsters. But that's really just the beginning. The world's oceans, in folklore at least, are absolutely full of other kinds of shapeshifters, especially when you look at Celtic and Irish stories.
So over in Ireland, you have legends of the Murrow. These are basically beautiful sea fairies, and their whole power to live underwater is tied to this magical red cap they wear. Then, if you head over to Scotland or Scandinavia, you start hearing tales about the Selkies. These are seals who can literally take off their seal skin when they come on land and become these stunningly beautiful humans.
But both of these creatures have this one really tragic weakness. If a mortal manages to find their red cap or their seal skin and steals it, well, they're trapped. They're stuck on land and can't go back to the sea. And this is a super common theme in these old stories. It often leads to the Selkie or Merrow being forced into a marriage, living a whole life just aching to get back home to the ocean.
And this whole idea, this fascination with beings that are part human, part sea creature, it's not just a European thing, not by a long shot. So let's take a super quick trip around the globe and see how a few other cultures have pictured these merfolk.
Okay, so looking at this, you can really see how unique that romantic European mermaid is. I mean, the Selkie is gentle and kind. The Merrow? Well, she can be super vengeful if you cross her. But maybe the biggest shock comes from Japan, with the ningyo. This thing is the opposite of beautiful. It's described as this grotesque, fishy creature with a monkey's mouth. And get this, if you eat its flesh, you get eternal life. But if you just capture one, it brings storms and horrible curses down on you. We're talking a terrifying creature of immense power. A far, far cry from a Disney princess, right?
So, okay, we've got all these myths, all these stories. But did anyone ever claim to have seen a real mermaid? Oh, absolutely. And believe me, some of the names on this list are gonna surprise you. Let's start with Christopher Columbus. Yeah, that Christopher Columbus. In 1493, he wrote in his actual logbook that he saw 3 mermaids, but he famously added they weren't nearly as beautiful as everyone said. Then you've got Henry Hudson's crew in 1608. They reported seeing one too. Even Captain John Smith, from the Pocahontas story, claimed he was totally mesmerized by a mermaid with long green hair. So the big question is, what were these experienced sailors actually seeing out there? Well, the most likely answer is the manatee. And I know, but think about it. You've been on a ship for months. You haven't seen another person who wasn't on your crew. You're lonely, you're tired. Then you see this shape in the water. It's a mammal. It can turn its head to look at you, and its flippers have bones inside that are kind of like fingers. It's really not a huge leap to see how a sailor's hopeful imagination might just fill in the blanks, right?
So when you look at the whole history, the mermaid has never been just one thing. She started as a heartbroken goddess, got mixed up with a terrifying bird monster, became a trapped fairy bride, and in some places was seen as this monstrous creature that brought bad luck. Her story has always shifted and changed right along with ours, reflecting what we fear and what we desire when we look out at that huge, mysterious ocean. Which kind of leaves us with one last thought, doesn't it? The mermaid has been a goddess, a monster, and a lover. What will she become next?